All right. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to you,
Ah, you're a poet and didn't know it.
I guess.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us here today. Klipsch is extremely excited to be partnering with SnapAV and Allnet and the rest of the brick and mortar locations across the U.S. for a truly custom experience that we can provide to each and every dealer and each and every custom install project that is out there. As you stated, my name is Tyler Nelson. I am the channel marketing manager for Klipsch. I run the custom installation, the commercial and pro cinema side of the business for Klipsch when it comes to marketing. I come from a long line, but the most recent line of experience I have within custom install is with RTI. So if my voice sounds familiar or you're going, Tyler Nelson, I know that name. Well, it's probably from an RTI training you took from me, or maybe even a pro control back in the day. A couple of things that I want to touch on. We have a little bit of time here. There is a plethora of product that is going to be available to you through Allnet, and we're not going to be able to get into every single SKU today. There's just too many products out there, but I'll touch on a lot of the important things about the brand, who we are, why, what impact Klipsch can make on the custom install and the projects that are available out there, and we'll touch on the product themselves and show you the strategies behind them and where you can go. As Rick stated, we'll have this presentation available for you. So if I whip through something and you want a little bit more information, but we run out of time, feel free to take a look at that. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us or reach out to me and through Rick, and we can get you whatever questions you have answered. One of the unique things about Klipsch over our past 73-year history is that we've always been involved in the custom installation, the professional line of speakers in one form or another. But just recently, we really put in a full force, a full court press into the dedicated CI area. So what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, what we did is we took a step back and we looked at our overall roadmap, our approach to the business, our approach to the market, if you will. And what we recognized is that we need to make some changes to our mindset, our business philosophy, if you will, and our product development. And those 4 changes came in the mindset of, okay, how can we make this unique? How can we make this dedicated? How can we put the installer first? And how do we make it so it's a singular solution for every project out there? So what we did is we took that first one, that exclusive product, and we made products and we dedicated them just for this install, for the CI line or the CI market, which means that it's not in mass retail, it's not online, you won't find it at Best Buy, you won't find it on Amazon. These are products that are protected and protected for you alone, which is going to help maintain margin levels and points. You now have to compete with those types of things. Don't get me wrong, there's other products out there that we do have that are like in ceiling speakers that are in a Best Buy, but the main ones that we'll focus on here today that are dedicated CI SKUs are not in those locations. The other thing we wanted to do is make sure that people are aware of our solutions and know that the solutions that we develop, the product lines that we develop, have the installer first and foremost in the front of our mind. So obviously having exclusive products is one major thing, but the other thing is how do we get installers in and out of jobs faster when it comes to installing product and providing a reliable solution. So that's what we took in our development, and we created some very unique installation methods, some processes, and some products that really help tie the whole system together in a very simplistic fashion so that you can get in and out of jobs easier, and you know you're going to get that reliable product each and every time. The other part is that we wanted people to recognize that Klipsch being around for 73 years, everybody seems to have a Klipsch story. They've all been around, they've had grandfathers or, grandparents or parents or somebody who's had a pair of Klipsch speakers sometime in their life, whether they had them in college or on their computer or whatever the case may be. Somebody's got a branded story. We've taken that story, that trustworthiness, that referral worthy, and put it into that custom install line so that you're not afraid to say, yeah, Klipsch. Oh wow, yeah, I know Klipsch. I've had those before. They do in ceiling speakers, and be able to know that that's available for you. And then the last one, of course, is going to be that one-stop shop. Every solution for every installation, whether it's outside, inside, in ceiling, in wall, on wall, theater bars, sound bars, in floor. I mean, it doesn't matter. We've got a solution for everything. But it all stems from our brand story, and this is one of the primary things that we always like to push is who we are and what we've done. And it all stems from Paul Klipsch, who's basically had a reputation of being a mad scientist, if you will, a gentleman that was truly dedicated to the craft of developing a solution where he was able to take the sound he heard in that concert hall and bring it home and provide that emotional uplift or that connection that people have when they're viewing or movies or listening to music. Being able to really dedicate himself into fine-tuning that attitude, that sound into something that's relative and recognizable over the years. And he's one of the few people that's actually in the Science and Engineering Hall of Fame. He's got 22 patents, and we keep growing that. But he also had a very unique aspect of things where there was a no bullshit attitude with him. He actually wore under his lapel a little button that said bullshit on it. And being the mad genius that he was and the scientist and that rock and roll sensibility to him, he would go to conferences and listen to people speak. And if there was something that the speaker was saying that he knew was incorrect, he'd flip that lapel around, and that's all he'd say. He'd call him out on it. But we've taken that spirit, we've taken that experience, that drive to want to create the emotional uplift in clients, and continued it on ever since that first Klipsch horn. In fact, the Klipsch horn, the first Klipsch horn that he's standing next to in that picture, we've been in continuous production of that same speaker with some subtle tweaks here and there for the last 72, 73 years now. So it's the oldest continuously produced speaker in the world, as far as I'm aware of, that keeps that unique design to itself. Now, a lot of this was born in Hope, Arkansas. That's where Paul Klipsch started the whole thing in a tin shed. And we still have our manufacturing facility in Klipsch right now. And we manufacture and put together some of our most premium products down there. The Heritage line, our Pro Cinema line that goes into theaters such as Regal theaters or Harkins, or there's a number of them out there. The KI professional install speakers, our THX box level speakers, our RF7, RC64 speakers. We still hand make all of these in Hope, Arkansas today. And with that dedication, with that drive to want to be the best and provide our clients with those experiences like no other, it's driven us to become the market leader in a number of different areas, whether it's the box speaker brand, custom speaker brands, awareness of premium audio. Being able to have that top of mind share within customers, within integrators, is where we strive to be each and every time. But even further is that we strive to provide the best customer satisfaction rate we can. We've got a 92% customer satisfaction rate, which means that you are installing something that's going to last and that clients are going to love each and every time they listen to it. And it goes to show that it's not only in here. We've taken what we know on the big line of speakers, our box line of speakers, or even our pro line of speakers, and put them into our architectural lines, our outdoor lines. And you'll see the ability for shared technologies across the board is prevalent within Klipsch. In fact, with the types of numbers that we're showcasing here in terms of consumer, what about the professional line? What about, I mentioned cinema. Well, being able to be in 1 out of every 2 US commercial cinemas is a pretty impressive thing. 1 out of 4 global cinemas is powered by Klipsch. We partner with the best, THX, Dolby, IMAX. We take those technologies that we have and we showcase them and utilize them across the board. So if a unique product is developed in cinema to enhance the surround capability without degradation of the signal, we're going to take that same technology and place it into our home products so that you get that same experience. That drive to want to have that experience over and over and over is really what gets Klipsch. So how do we do that? Well, we talk about these different technologies, but there's actually 4 core principles in our design philosophy that we abide by each and every time. And these were developed by Paul Klipsch way back in the day. He said, I want to make a speaker, and he's really starting to develop how he's going to do this and how to create that live experience in the home. And he came up with these four design philosophies that we follow in every speaker we make: high efficiency, low distortion, wide dynamic range, controlled directivity, and flat frequency response. Every engineer believes in each one of these, and we design the speakers based on these. So what do these mean? Well, without going into too much detail, and again, we can, I'll provide a little bit more robust training deck to Rick that you can access if you'd like. But high efficiency, low distortion basically means that if you are able to make a speaker work, produce a louder sound with less energy, you're going to get less distortion out of it. You're not having to push it so hard, which is a good thing. The less power you need, the more efficient to produce a louder sound. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get that distortion. It makes a better, cleaner sound. The wide dynamic range gives you the ability, because of that low distortion, because of the efficiency, to be able to push speakers and be able to create products that are able to cover that full dynamic range of the sound. So it's not isolating specific areas. It's entirely that entire sound that was developed. The controlled directivity is the ability for you to be able to pinpoint where you want the sound to go. So we're not spewing audio everywhere. We're directing it into specific areas based on the need, based on the solution. Now, does that mean that we do all of our speakers like that? No, not necessarily. For example, our landscape outdoor speakers have 105-degree dispersion, sound dispersion on them. Well, that's a pretty wide dispersion. It's still controlled in that area, but it gives you the ability to have a wider sound field on there. But be able to control that, be able to make sure that the sound isn't dropping off at certain frequencies. That's where control directivity comes into play. And then the flat frequency response, and being able to have the sound without us messing around with it be exactly the way it was meant to be heard when it was recorded, when it was produced. That's what we strive for each and every time. We also take a lot of these philosophies and we apply them into some of the technologies that we develop. And a lot of the technologies that we develop are seen in a number of different fashions or a number of different ways within the speaker line that we do have. And I won't go into all of the different technologies, but one of the ones we're most well known for is our Tractrix horn. So what is a Tractrix horn? Well, it's basically the ability to have the best way for air to be released from the tweeter to create that full dynamic sound, that ability for that sound to be consistent across the board. It provides the listener a much more full sound to it without it going everywhere, without you losing certain frequencies in certain areas. That's where that controlled directivity comes from. That's part of where the controlled directivity comes from. Let me rephrase that. It's also very, very efficient because it doesn't take a lot for that sound to be released, that air to get released from that tweeter. So it's a much more efficient, which means that you can drive it a little harder and not get into the distortion. What about ceremetallic woofers? I'm sure everybody's seen those copper cones at speakers sometime at a Best Buy or another location around or online. Well, those ceremetallic woofers, again, are made with extremely light materials that proprietary cone material that's a blend of materials to be able to provide that extra light but extremely rigid cone so that you are able to drive it harder and get those lower frequencies without any sort of distortion because it's maintaining its shape with that rigidity. But at the same time, because it's so efficient, you're able to drive it harder and it doesn't take a lot to push them. So we're coming out with all these different unique technologies all the time, and it continues to this day. In fact, we just were awarded another patent for one of our headphones. You may have seen some of those come out, but in terms of being able to have a much more flush fit inside the ear for in-ear headphones. We constantly are adding new patents and new technologies into the mix that stem from this long history of the design philosophies that Paul Klipsch came up with 73 years ago. So as I've been talking about these different technologies and proprietary technologies and different philosophies of development, we've taken all of those and we've said, okay, now that we know, now that we have these philosophies, how do we apply them into the different lines of speakers that are needed in the custom installation line? And one of which we'll start with is going to be our architectural series, probably the most common one in the custom install line. But one of the things we did with architectural line, before we even started developing the speakers themselves, we said, how do we make this more installer friendly? How do we get them in and out of jobs faster? How do we make this efficient? How do we make it a better quality sound? And what we did is we looked at the installation process for architectural speakers, whether it's an in-ceiling or an in-wall type of speakers. We came up with two different types to be able to do this: secure fit and skyhook. Now, with each architectural line, one of the 5 different lines that we do have within the architectural series, one, the THX line uses their standard dogleg screw-in type of installation, but the other 4 utilize secure fit and skyhook. Secure fit is going to be found in our 2 high-level professional series architectural lines, the professional series reference and the professional series reference premier. This is a 2-piece installation method where it isolates the sound even more. It reduces baffle vibration by about 45%, which creates a better overall sound. So why would we do something like that? Well, when you're talking about the higher end of architectural SKUs, generally those are going to be used for your dedicated listening, your home theater environment. So you want that power coming out of those speakers. You want that accuracy a lot more cleaner. You want it to be, it's a higher level, it's a more expensive speaker. So you want to be able to say, well, you're not only paying more, you're getting more out of it. The secure fit is a very simple installation. You cut the hole, you place this first piece, which comes detached from the speaker, into that hole. You flip these dog legs, they're spring loaded, so they automatically snap into place, or they snap into place once you push them. The screws extend that are in there, and then you just place the speaker in after connecting the speaker wire and zip it in on a low torque setting, and you're done. It's a very simple way, but because it's a 2-piece system, it isolates that sound much more, and you're getting a much more accurate response, a much more accurate sound out of it. And again, that's found on the Klipsch Professional Series, Reference Premier, and Reference line. Now, Skyhook is utilized on our Designer and our Custom Series architectural line speakers. So why do we have this method of install? Well, because when you're utilizing a Custom Series or Designer Series, which is our good and better type of speaker level, what you're going to get out of this is a faster install. You're looking to do a distributed audio solution, or maybe a watching area, but time is of the essence. You need to get in and out of that job faster. You want it to be tool free. You're up on a 20-foot ladder putting in speakers. You want it to be safe so that you're not dealing with any sort of additional overhead costs of injuries or anything of that nature. We wanted to develop a system that was simple and easy. So essentially on the Klipsch Designer and Custom Series in-wall and in-ceiling speakers, you cut the hole, connect the speaker to the speaker wire, and then push these into place. And when you push them into place, these dog legs automatically engage and automatically tension themselves based on the thickness of that wall or of that substrate. And when you push it just a hair more on each one of the underside holes of here, it will tighten it just that much more for a really flush look to it, a very secure look to it, but it's in and out. Basically, it'll save you about 75% in your install time. We actually have a demo when we first launched this at CEDIA called I Finished in a Minute. And you got a button if you were able to install a speaker in less than a minute. And I think everybody who did it in less than a minute. So everybody was walking around with buttons and said, I finished in a minute. Not something that I'm sure everybody wants to be walking around with, but hey, it was pretty fun. So it's kind of the Klipsch attitude, right? So those are our 2 install methods that we said, okay, what can we do to help the installer? How do we make it easier? How do we make it faster? How do we make it more reliable? And how do we provide that better quality of sound? So I mentioned that there's the Klipsch Professional Series, Reference, and Reference Premier. Well, let's start with the Reference Premier side first. This is our highest line of the Professional Series of this size. Now, when you're talking about the Reference Premier, these are going to be your dedicated listening type of speakers. So you've got the in-wall and in-ceiling types of speakers, but we created a unique design with these. We didn't allow for these to have adjustable or pivoting tweeters on them. They are standard fixed tweeters on there. if there's a need to be able to have an angled, we created a separate angled in-ceiling speaker just for that application, because we wanted the higher quality of sound to be devised and created based on not somebody angling a tweeter. We wanted it automatically done, not only with the tweeter, but also the driver behind it. You'll notice that all these tweeters on here are titanium dome tweeters. They're mounted to Tractrix horns, and there's a cerametallic woofer or driver on each one of them. Now, just real quick, the nomenclature for Klipsch in terms of the model names is pretty straightforward. Pro Series, 1 means 1 8-inch, which is 8-inch here, cerametallic woofer, reference Premier, RP, and then W stands for wall. So underneath it, you see it's the exact same thing, 180 RPC for ceiling. If it's an LCR or it has 2 drivers on it, 2 5.25-inch or 5 in this case, and then you've got your RPW, reference Premier in wall, LCR, left, center, right. So it's a pretty straightforward approach. We also, with every single one of the speakers that we're going to be talking about here, for the in-ceiling speakers, include round and square, bezel-free, magnetic, paintable grills. So that's our professional series reference Premier line. In terms of the reference line, you get a few more speakers available to you. So the top 5 here are going to be your standards that you have, your 2 in-wall, your 2 in-ceiling, your in-wall LCR. But underneath that are 4 very unique options for you as well. These are going to be your minimal footprint speakers. These are going to be the speakers that are very small that you can essentially hide. Where you're working with an interior designer, they want to hear, not see that speaker. So these are great opportunities for the installer, for the project, to be able to have a speaker that produces that high quality sound without any sort of massive footprint in regards to it. Case in point, the Pro 14 RC is about the size of a standard can light. It's about 3.5-inch, about 4-inch overall dimension that you can install into a location and be able to have it right in line with like can lights. But we also added a dual voice coil in ceiling bandpass sub that has the exact same port, that has a port tube on it obviously, but the port itself is the exact same size as Pro 14 RC. So you're not going to miss a beat. It's not going to be this giant grill that you've got in the middle of the room that sticks out like a sore thumb. It's just going to go right in line with the rest of the speakers and the lights. For example, if we're looking at, say, a system like in a kitchen here, you can see that highlighted in blue are the Pro 14s and Pro 800 is the one in red. So you've got speaker, 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 but then you've got light, 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 all over here, and then your sub here. So it looks like it's just straight in line. It's unobtrusive, it flows with the room, it provides that modern interior and design aesthetic. So the minimal footprint system by Klipsch is a very, very unique thing. And because we're so efficient with how we've created these speakers and with our design philosophies on them, you can drive these and they're not going to bottom out on you. They're not going to sound terrible. They sound fantastic. Then we'll move, so we've talked about our Klipsch 2 professional series, the reference Premier and the reference. Now we'll move on to the designer series. So in the designer series, now we're talking about our distributed audio, we're talking about our versatile type of solution, we're talking about the ability to have a lower price point. And with that, you can see that we've put in silk dome tweeters and polypropylene woofers or drivers onto these instead of the cerametallic and the titanium. We utilize Skyhook now instead of the secure fit installation system. You've got a stereo speaker here, the CSM, right here in a 160 and a 180, so a 6-inch and an 8-inch. Think of having that in maybe like a bathroom or something along those lines where you want to have, that stereo sound, but you don't have a lot of room for 2 speakers. This would be a great application for that. And then our custom series, the beginning of all of our architectural line. Very simple, straightforward, polymer tweeters, polymer woofers, simple installation, great for distributed audio sound. So in terms of an overall look and feel, or overall look of what you're getting at in these, custom starts with the good, it goes up to designer, professional series, reference, and then the best is professional series reference Premier. There are also applications where you don't have a lot of room to work with in terms of ceiling joist height. So you want to be able to have some sort of shallow depth. Well, we've got shallow depth architectural speakers for you as well. The SLM 34 and 5400Cs include, the 34 is going to be a 4-inch cerametallic woofer or IMG woofer, excuse me, with that common Klipsch look to it. But what you'll notice with these, and I'll get to a little bit more in a minute, is that there's a back can on this. You may say, well, wait a minute, why do I want that? I'll explain it in just a second. Both this SLM 3400, which is again is a 4-inch, or the 5400, which is also a 4-inch but cerametallic and titanium, versus the 34, which was aluminum dome tweeter and the IMG driver. The 5400 and the 3400 are both fully enclosed. And the reason we fully enclose those is we created this custom round Tractrix horn, so that when you're installing these, no matter what you've got going on in that location, that ceiling or that area, no matter how deep or how shallow it is, if you didn't have a back can on that with the ability to have the air coming out of the front of that port on the front, you would get uneven sound across the installation. By enclosing that back can and then utilizing the front Tractrix port, we're able to get the consistency of the sound, that full range sound, that true low frequency is enhanced out of it. And we're only talking that each of these, the 3400 and 5400, are only 50 millimeters thick. So we're talking about something that's very, very small, very, very thin for those types of installations. But again, you get that sound isolation, you get the low frequency response, and the consistency of sound across the board. In terms of subwoofers for architectural use, we've got, as we talked about before, the Pro 800 as your in-ceiling sub with that fantastic minimal footprint port. And then, of course, there is a very unique option with this to be able to add a flat floor vent boot. That is available for purchase as well, floor vent boot. That gives you the ability to not use this, but install this in the floor if you wanted to, and then use the floor vent boot kit so that it looks like it's an air vent, but it's actually a subwoofer. So it, again, blends in. You don't know it's even there. Nobody recognizes, but you're getting that low frequency. The Pro 1000 is going to be a 10-inch retrofit in-wall subwoofer, full MDF enclosure, paintable magnetic grille. This is going to be great for, your distributed audio in your home theater. If you're going to be doing more of a home theater, you probably want to put, more than 1 or 2 of these. The Pro 800 is great for distributed audio. This is a good versatile piece for both applications, distributed audio and home theater. But if you've got a new construction and you've got the walls open and you're really wanting to get some low frequency, but an in-wall sub, go with the Pro 1200 SOB. This is a full stud space enclosed 12-inch woofer. That gives you, again, that magnetic grille on here, but now you're getting a lot more space to work with here. For air movement, you're able to get a better low frequency response out of it. This is a really good home theater. I mean, of course, you could use it for distributed audio if you want, which would be awesome, but you do have that opportunity as well. Our Klipsch THX Cinema series, we do have both architectural and inline. Now, a lot of people say, well, THX, they're still around. No, they don't say that, but THX actually is very unique. It's fun to have the THX certification on here. It's actually very beneficial because people still don't know the name. And it's a very, very rigorous certification process that enables us to provide a very high level. These are the types of speakers where money's no object. If they're building a true home theater system, in a dedicated theater room, this is where you want to go. You've got your 650 where you've got 2 6.5-inch cerametallic woofers, a 90 by 60 Tractrix horn, which gives you the ability to have a very, very uniform coverage over the entire room and entire seating location. Same thing here with the KL525. These are going to be your left, right, centers types of applications. For your surrounds, you're looking at the KS525s. Again, these are all box. And then for your low frequency, the KW120 THX, the 12-inch front firing with the front firing slot port up top. So you're really getting some serious low, 20 hertz. And then we do also offer an amplifier just for that guy. In terms of the architectural line, we've got in-wall and in-ceiling. Now there's going to be THX Ultra and THX Select certified. The THX Ultra on these guys, these are going to be the really high-end ones. So these are talking about speakers that, you know, again, you want that architectural feel, or you want the surrounds in wall, you want the big ones up front, you know, box speakers, but then you want the in wall, you know, you want your surrounds and Atmos height channels to be your architectural line. These will flow right in line with whatever you're looking to do. So each one of these, whether it's the LC of left, right, center for the LCR or the surrounds, they all are dedicated either left, right, centers or surrounds. And you can tell by having this diffused Tractrix horn tweeter array so that you get that crisp and clear sound no matter where you're going. But I mentioned that there was a difference between the Tractrix horns. So on here, you've got your 90 by 90, which is great. But on the in-ceiling, for example, this is what's called our VTC Tractrix horns, our variable coverage. Because what we know is when you're utilizing in-ceiling speakers, or speakers in general, a traditional in-ceiling speaker, when you're aiming it, you either are getting it too centered, you're getting it too localized. You know, there's only really one prime seating area. Well, with this type of dispersion of that high frequency sound, that variable coverage technology that we incorporate, every angle is good. So because of where it's distributed, whether you're up front or in the back, all sounds are going to be identified based on that sound field, that left, right, left, center, right localization. In terms of the Tractrix horn arrays, same basic idea. We want to make sure that that high frequency sound effect is crisp and clear so that you know exactly this is on the left, this is on the right, this is on the left rear right, this is on the left rear right, all that kind of fun stuff where you can, it's more realistic, it's more true to life type of application. And as I said before, these are fully enclosed just as the, excuse me, just as the shallow depth ones are, the SLMs, because we want to be able to control that airspace. We want that accuracy in the design of the sound and of the speaker. The THX Select, we've only got 2 models for you on that in terms of in-wall. These are going to be, again, you know, speakers that don't quite have they've got the fiberglass woofers versus the, you know, cerametallic. They've got titanium, the compression drivers, but they're going to be 90 by 90 Tractrix horns. Again, nothing bad about these speakers at all. These are just going to be those types of speakers where it's one step down for that, from that THX Ultra to the THX Select. So we've got a vast array of different architectural line speakers. We also have a variety of amplifiers available for you, and those can be anywhere, as you saw from the THX subwoofer amps to our DSP KDA series amplifiers. These KDA series amplifiers are incredible. There's a KDA 500 and a KDA 1000. Each one of these provides either a 500 watt or a 1000 watt over 4 different channels. So 4 over 125 or 4 over 250, depending on the model. But they are also bridgeable, have 70 volt or 8 ohm capability. One of the unique things about these amps is that you can do 70 volt over two bridge channels, say channels 3 and 4, and then do low impedance over channels 1 and 2 if you wanted. So you really have an opportunity to custom design the output of these amps based on the application itself. Not only that, it also has an onboard DSP with all the Klipsch presets, and it can be controlled via IP control drivers such as Control 4, as an example, or RTI, or Crestron, or Elan, or URC. The DSP is suite. Oh, let me back up one. I'm sorry, real quick. The back panel of this, you can see it's a pretty straightforward. It's a 1 rack U unit where you can daisy chain the ability with either the unbalanced line in or line throughs, line in, line outs. You do have balanced line in, of course, if your client so desires for that, and of course your Phoenix, your 4x speakers outputs here. You do have a 12 volt trigger, but you can also adjust that to utilize based on milliamps, based on source signal, and you can adjust it how you see fit. So a very straightforward approach. One thing about these amplifiers is that they are thermal controlled, thermal fan controlled in the front, right up here. If I can get my mouse up, right up here. So instead of it being on top or on the bottom, it's going to have a great airflow through it. You're not gonna have to worry about stacking these one on top of each other. If you're doing, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 of them, whatever the case may be, and you may laugh, but I've seen it. You don't have to worry about it burning out or shorting. Now, I mentioned there was an onboard DSP. This onboard DSP gives you the ability to make adjustments and fine-tune this amplifier based on the application at your leisure, or at the location. Just logging into it, the client will have access, or you can provide the client access to the levels and to the metering and the levels and the volume levels on there that they can adjust if necessary. Generally, I see a lot of installers that say, well, no, I'm not going to give them access to this at all because I don't want them to screw anything up. But the cool part about this is that you can also password protect all of the little nitty-gritty details on it. So the input naming, the 5-band parametric EQ, the output setup, all that kind of fun stuff. Now, in order to gain access to this DSP suite, a lot of people say, well, you need to go online and do this. Now, you can actually plug directly into the DSP from your laptop or from your computer. Just a Cat6, Cat5 crossover cable, and you type in your web browser, http://KDA 500 or KDA 1000, depending on what you have, and it'll open up that DSP suite for you. If you've got the amplifier on the network already, you simply do the same thing, except you don't connect directly to it. You just connect into that network and then type in that. If you've got a number of them in a rack and they have been connected to the network and they're all IP addressed, and you know which ones those are, instead of typing in HTTP KDA 500, you'd want to type in the IP address for that one in particular, so that you can go in and access that singular one. So on the main page, as I said, when you first get to the page, it'll come up with the amplifier volume, the output meters. You can see what it is. If you label these in the next step, they would be labeled as channel 1 instead of output channel 1. It might say, rear speakers or height channel or landscape, landscape fence speakers or rock speakers or whatever the case may be. You can name those. Once you log in, if you click on the setup menu, it'll come up and it'll say, what's the password? What's the login and password? It's a very, very complicated admin as the generic. And then once you log in, you have the ability to change that login information under the general tab. You can flash the amp LEDs. You can configure the power modes on here. You can name the amps. I highly recommend, if you're doing daisy chaining with these amps, that you name each one of them for where they are or what they're doing, so that you know exactly what to access. You can upload new firmware, new UIs to it for any DSP menu changes that we might make down the road. It's a very straightforward generalized menu. In terms of the input, now what you'll see is that as we go along in these slides, it goes to the next menu setting itself. So in here we've input. You can name your channel name, and then that'll automatically populate throughout the rest of the pages. So what's your output channel? Well, that might be landscape speakers near fence, or fence speakers, or whatever the case you want to name it, right? And what the input is. You can do inputs 1 and 2, unbalanced, balanced. There's a whole drop-down menu list available for you to be able to select those. You can also turn on volume to a certain level so you don't blast it out. If they're having a party last night and they just want to go out and chill, if they turn it on, they know it's not going to blast them out of infamy. It'll start off slow. Generally, most of these are all the way up. Or at least the turn on starts off low and then it goes up, but you have the ability to make those adjustments. Under the EQ, we do offer you the ability to have a full 5-band parametric EQ where you can go and adjust the settings yourself. You can go in and adjust the shelving to boost high or low frequencies very, very simply. Same with the crossover. You have the ability to copy all those settings and then paste them to the next channel. So for example, if I go through and do channel 1 and I set it all up and I go, okay, I want the exact same thing for channel 2. There's a copy, click on this and then paste, and it would paste all of those settings over. So it's a very simple way for you to continue the process of setting them up. And then the output, this is really where this shines. You have the opportunity with these amps to not even have to do that EQ settings. We've taken all of our well, almost all of our speakers, and we've run them through the tests of what actually sounds. Now, I'm not talking about just acoustical treatment tests. I'm talking about listening to it and going, okay, what needs to be adjusted here? And we've set up presets within this amplifier for each one of our speakers. So under this preset dropdown, you'll see a whole slew of opportunity speakers, whether it's 70 volt or low impedance, Pro 500T, whatever the case may be, they would all be involved in there. You can adjust the limiters on there if you want. You can adjust the output mode to stereo or bridged. If you're bridging the two channels, what the output impedance is going to be, 70 volt, 4 ohm, 8 ohm, 16 ohm, whatever the case may be, you can adjust all of that in here. It's a very straightforward, very easy way to get your amplifier set up. And then you can also save this file. So heaven forbid I don't know, there's a fire and there's an issue with the amp and you need to send it in and you got a new one in, you can just copy and paste, or you can just load up the old file into it and you wouldn't have to go through the entire settings for it again. So we try to make this as easy as possible for you. I mentioned outdoors in terms of what we offer. So we talked about some of the architectural. Let's talk about some of the outside type of stuff. So our landscape speaker lines. One of the unique things about the Klipsch landscape speakers is that they're the only horn-loaded landscape speaker on the market. We've taken exactly what made us so popular inside and brought it outside. The ability for us to utilize our knowledge with 70 volt and outdoor speakers in commercial applications is now available in the residential application. These speakers, the landscape speakers, are actually very widely used in commercial applications because they have the ability to do 70 volt and low impedance. As I said, they're the only horn-loaded speaker on the market, so each one of them has got a horn-loaded tweeter onto it, and it's got 105-degree dispersion on it. You have two models available for you on this, the Pro 500T and the Pro 650T. Now again, Pro being a Pro series, which means it's protected for you. 5 meaning it's 5-inch IMG woofer. T meaning there's a transformer on it, which means it can do 70 volt or low impedance. There's a multi-tap on it. And LS meaning landscape speaker. So it's a fairly hot, straightforward approach to it. So the Pro 500T and the Pro 650T are both available to you. As I mentioned, the system flexibility with 70 volt, 100 volt, or low impedance is available, and you don't need any special tools to adjust it. In fact, there's just a heavy rubber cover on the back of the speaker that you lift up. You can adjust it with your hand, just switching to the proper voltage or wattage that you need for 70 volt or 100 volt. And that, of course, is going to depend on how many speakers you have in line, what the amplifier power capability is, and all that fun stuff. If just one piece of advice, if you know you're going to be doing low impedance on these speakers and they're going to home run them all back, make sure that before you even connect speaker wire, these are set to bypass, which is your low impedance, your 8 ohm bypass. Before you hook it up, you don't want anything to go crazy here. These are, of course, weather resistant, IP rated of 45, which of course means that they're protected from items like wires or tools or rocks or dust of 2.5 millimeters or more. It's the ingress protection rating of 4 for the dust protection, and the moisture or the water rating is a 5, which is protection against all direct water sprays. So what does that mean? Well, you can mow next to it. You can you can install it outside and let it rain, let it snow, and you're not going to have any problems with it. And speaking of installation, two very simple ways of, two different methods of installing different devices. One, ground stakes, which are available for you in a 10-inch and an 18-inch with security plate available. Again, very simple, easy way. They are detached from the speaker, so you're not pushing down the speaker as you're trying to install it. They allow you to precisely aim them with the little, I guess, arrow area here on the underside of the stake itself, and it's a very simple 90-degree turn, and with a hex nut at the back to lock it onto that stake. So it's a very simple way to do that. Again, a 10-inch or an 18-inch ground stake is available for you, or you can install it with our new surface mount, the Pro 1 SM, which gives you the ability to take off and install these surface mount devices to. You can use a 1-inch tree strap if you want to attach it to a tree, a U-bolt for mounting it to, say, a pole, or you can screw it in into whatever the substrate is that you're using, whether it's concrete, brick, wood, doesn't matter, utilizing the standard bolts or the standard locations here. We don't include any of the install hardware because we don't know what you're going to be using it for, but everything else you see is included: the screws, the arms. These can be articulated up to 90 degrees, 180 degrees either way. They also match the Pro 650 and the Pro 500T, so you don't need two separate installation arms for both product. In terms of subwoofers for landscape, you've got a Pro 10 SW, which is a 10-inch half burial, and a Pro 12-inch SW, which is a 12-inch full burial. These guys pound. They're both 70 volt and 8 ohm compatible. They're dual voice coil and they're transformerless, which basically means that you are going to get a longer throw out of it without any sort of saturation coming from that transformer. It gives you the ability to have a much lower frequency to it. It's clear, it's powerful, and it gives you that that true low frequency that you need in those areas. And then the subwoofer installation advantage in terms of why you choose ours over anybody else's. Well, one of the unique things about our install method on these is that we squared off the ends. I know it seems trivial, but when you're installing these and you're maybe a man short or a woman short in terms of the install, and you need to put this in and then backfill it, well, instead of having somebody just stand there holding it, hoping that it's straight as it rolls around, isn't a very good way to be able to install this as you backfill it in. Being able to square it off, place it in, make sure it's all level, and then have that top mounted chimney so that it's a direct sound coming out of it rather than coming out of the end and then up and increasing the overall size. This is a very simple, straightforward install, and they sound fantastic. See, there's a question that came up here real quick. Sorry about that. Oh, no, just type your question. Okay. In terms of rock speakers, what we're looking at with rock speakers is a Pro 650T, Pro 500T, and the Pro 10 SW. But I bet you can guess what I'm going to say next. They are the exact same as the landscape speakers. So they have the exact same acoustics and features as the 650 for the 650 rocks, the 500, that's the 500 satellites, and then the Pro 10 SW as the 10 SWLS landscape subwoofer. They're the exact same. So again, 70 volt, 100 volt, low impedance, all capable in there, being able to have those, the two rock speakers and then the boulder for the sub. Very, very versatile pieces, which makes it easy to put it in line in an install where maybe you have a couple rock speakers that are, in maybe a flower bed, and then the satellite speaker that's mounted to the wall or something along those lines. Because they're 70 volt and because they have the same acoustics, it's going to sound the same across the board. As I mentioned, you have the capability with those amps and being able to create these solutions, whether it's through stereo and single channel, bridging it for 2, 4, 8, 16 ohm by combining the channels, or you can do 70 volt, 100 volt for those larger residences or commercial distributed audio solutions. But what's kind of the process of doing it? Well, I'm not going to go into depth. The one thing I will recommend if you are doing 70 volt installation when it comes to Klipsch or any other manufacturer is make sure you have enough headroom. The recommended is 20%. I always recommend 50% headroom. But what that means is that when you're doing 70 volt systems, you're adding up the max amount of power based on the amount of speakers and make sure that the bridge channel can compensate for it. So in this case, where we've got a 250 watt channel power, I've got 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 equals 120 watts times 1.2. Oh, sorry about that. We're getting enough. We have enough headroom to work with. So it's about 144 watts, which is less than the amplifier channel power of 250 watts. So we're in good shape there. We have enough room. That means that we can add speakers down the line. We can drive it harder if we need to for whatever reason. You're not having to worry about extending what you don't have. So just keep that in mind as you're designing these systems. As an example, good system. You could do a daisy chain of 70 volt for the landscape speakers and then a 70 volt or low impedance to the subwoofer over a bridge. A better system, maybe you're doing a dual zone, you're going to do a lot more speakers. You're going to do 12 speakers, 2 subs. Well, you got to figure out where that power is coming from. So we're going to do bridge channels or 70 volt for the satellites. We're going to do the 2 70 volt subwoofers here on another bridge channel. And then we're going to do the 70 volt mono for the 2, maybe those are surface mount speakers. Or at best, you can go crazy and really do some fun daisy chaining with all of these. So you have a lot of opportunity with that, even with our under eave speakers where you've got these that are surface mount, our 650 or 525. Again, what you've noticed here is that we're maintaining consistency in terms of sizing of drivers and of tweeters so that it's capable of having that uniform sound across that installation. So the 650, the 525, the stereo outdoor, if you have a need for the stereo outdoor speaker, these are all low impedance speakers here. So keep that in mind as you're designing your system that these are low impedance. However, Allnet will have the ability to gain our AW650Ts, our 525Ts as well, which are our commercial line that have the transformer in it. So they're very similar to those rock and landscape speakers where you can have the transformer on them. So you could do these at 70 volt rails if you needed to. Same thing with this CP6. This is a very unique speaker because this actually is a very friendly install type of speaker where you can put this in a in a 45-degree corner or a 90-degree corner. It'll fit perfectly for it and provide a 45-degree angle to the listening area. It's very easy install. The Heritage Theater Bar provides you the ability to have a premium finished theater bar. Now, this isn't your standard theater bar. This is going to be a theater bar, a passive 3-channel LCR theater bar that's going to go in line with a high-level system. So we hand make this in Hope, Arkansas with real wood. It comes in standard size of 49.5 inches, which is the same width as, generally the same width as most 55-inch TVs. But each one of these is a magnetic grill, real wood finish with either a satin black ash or a American walnut. And then you've got your black grill on top of that. We also offer a fully customizable version where you can go from 49.5 inches to up to 80 inches. We've got 6 different finishes available for you in terms of wood, including a primed white one and a raw one. So it's ready for either paint or ready for stain, or we've got 4 different wood options for you. We've got 4 different grill cloths, whether it's black or taupe or cream. We have a whole bunch of them. It's like 36 different options that you could use for this guy. The really cool thing about this, though, is the theater sound it provides. They are ceramic woofers. They're voiced exactly the same. The titanium dome tweeters, they're all tractor's horn loaded. You're going to get that consistency and precision of sound. And it's going to be easy to install as well. These are not light bars. They're real wood. So they're heavy. But you can see here that once you mount it up, you can pull the speaker wire through and set it up right in the front, and then put the grill cloth over it, and you never see it. But it makes it easier instead of trying to have 2 people hold it, you wire it up and then install it on the wall. It does use a Z-clip wall mounting system that makes it easy for you to be able to have a flush one-person type of installation onto it. And because of those front-mounted speaker terminals, it makes it easy to install. Again, these are all handcrafted in Hope, Arkansas, built by our Klipsch craftsmen, and ready to order. I want to touch on one last thing here before we open it up to questions. I know we're running short on time, but the C-Series subwoofers, these came out last year, and these are some very, very unique subwoofers. These are the ultra compact triple driver subs. They come in an 8-inch triple driver and a 10-inch triple driver, but these are the most custom technology and oriented subs there is out there. They have a variety of inputs, including wireless, dual RCA line level, XLR, high level left and right. You can also do wireless, as I said. There's also IP control with Control 4, Crestron, URC, Elan. I only put 3 on there right now, but they're ultra compact. These guys put out the same amount of sound, and they're piano glass, by the way, for their size. Look at the size comparisons here. You're looking at the 308 and the 310. The 310, you put out 116. That's greater than this 10-inch here, this is PL10. and pretty close to the 120. Look at that, 25 hertz, 27, 24. That guy pounds. But it's triple driver, one active cerametallic, and then two passive MDFs. And it's also controlled through an app, the Klipsch Low Control app, where you can actually do things like adjust, has specific EQ modes onto it, utilize the parametric EQ and adjust it for the user and save it to the specific user that's using it. Or you can use the auto room EQ and get both near and far field readings for that application. Take it out of there and be able to have it precisely where you want that level to be. IP control through RJ45. It's not wireless for IP control. Just keep that in mind. But if you did want wireless input, it does work with the WA3, which is a wireless input. And everybody knows kind of the idea behind control. I want to watch a movie. Switch to this. Switch to high level input, change the crossover to 100 hertz, change to music, EQ preset, done. And it can change it. So you have a lot of opportunity with the Klipsch line to be able to showcase all the different opportunities out there. There is also an on-wall line that utilizes the full range of Klipsch technologies in here. But unfortunately, we run out of time to discuss that today. So I do want to open up into any questions that may, I'll just slip to this slide so you can see it, that may be out there, if there are any questions.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, yeah, so we do have some questions that came up. One of the questions that came up, can you go back to the Heritage soundbar, the custom one? Okay. So how is that priced out? Do we have to submit it like a
So right now,
I'm guessing like a
Allnet.
custom soundbar for a 55 is going to be different price than a custom soundbar for an 85.
Right. So the standard bar, the 49.5-inch bar, that's either available in walnut or black oak. Those are going to be standard. Those are loaded into your system, and they should be already as a standard price.
Yeah,
49.5
I've
inch.
seen those.
There's two SKUs. Yep. The custom one hasn't been loaded into your system yet because we don't know how it's going to be able to be processed by Snap yet. Because there is a form that needs to be filled out, whereas.
Okay.
And again, I'm not saying no. If we've got somebody or you've got somebody that wants a custom theater bar, we're absolutely happy to do it. But basically, the form entails the exact sizing down to the 1/10 of an inch,
Okay.
the wood finish, the grill cloth. Do you want the Klipsch logo on there or not? This guy
Okay.
right here.
Yeah.
The address, and then the sign off of both the customer and the salesperson, because once we place that order, there's no returns on it because it's fully
Okay.
custom made. And it's about anywhere between, depending on what the selection is of the materials used, anywhere from a 4 to 8 week window, and the sizing, of course,
Okay.
always plays into it. So, but it is handmade in Hope. So
Well, we've got mechanisms to do that with other vendors. We do Lutron shade orders where there's, every single window is a different size, possibly a different fabric material. So we've got the capability to process orders like that.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
hopefully we'll kind of merge that and get that underway. Okay, just curious about that because, like you said,
Yep.
I saw the other two go in there, and that's one of the things I'm interested in for myself because I've got an older, unusual size TV, and nothing fits in between the two windows where the TV is. So I can't do, surface mount speakers on either side. I'm not a big fan of doing ceiling speakers for LCRs. So when I saw that on our first presentation that you did for us as staff, that rang out like a bell is something that I
Mhm.
want for myself.
Well,
So
I will tell you from experience, because I have one, it
yeah,
sounds incredible.
cool.
It sounds incredible. I love it. And it's not powered. So, it's whatever you put into it is what you're getting out.
Yeah,
It's the clear sound. So, but it's
yeah.
awesome. I love it.
I got a big old Marantz receiver for that room, so that should light it
There
up
you
pretty
go.
good. Alrighty, so questions from the audience. Where did the questions tab just take off to? Well, this is weird. All right, so one of the questions that came up, which of the architectural speakers would you recommend for a steam shower or a spa or something like that? Is the ceramic metallic, is that a product that would work well in that application?
Well, it would work well, but they're not IP rated, so you're running that risk of moisture issues in terms of that. We don't have a marine grade. Well, I take that back. We don't have a marine grade speaker that in high moisture environments I think would be the right application for it. However, that being said, you could well, if you're going to be creative with it, you could do the landscape speaker because they're not very big, obviously, and I mean they're big, but they're not huge. You could mount those in ceiling because they have the IP rating on them. But the other ones don't have any sort of IP rating, so I guess that's kind of you kind of run the risk of moisture entrance into the device itself when you do that. Now that being said, yeah, no, that's kind of where we're at. We are looking into doing some of those in ceiling type of speakers where you have them, you know, protected for the outside, but haven't come out with that yet.
All right, thanks. All right, the next question that comes up is about going back to the LS series. How is the wire termination on each of the satellites and the subwoofer? Are these terminal strips or are these like inline splices?
Yeah, so they're terminal strips. So you're basically going to take it, and we include the watertight nuts to it, and you just take your speaker wire, connect it, and the watertight nuts make sure that it's solidified. I always recommend, of course, you take some, electrical tape or something to wrap it up real nice. But of course, it's up to the installer. The way I did my system is just taking the speaker, and I ran all the speaker wire through conduit. I live in Minnesota, so it makes a big difference. But I ran all the speaker wire through conduit, came out right by the speaker, terminated it, wrapped it, and then stuffed it back into the conduit for extra protection. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward approach to it.
Okay, nice. All right. So do we have a 70-volt speaker line for distribution as well, or just the landscape product?
Well, you will have, as far as I'm aware, ability to gain access to the commercial. I don't know if it'll be in stock necessarily, but I think it will be available to you.
Okay, so that's a future SKU mix for us.
Well, again, I don't know how Snap's going to do it with distribution for that. I know I'm setting it
Okay.
up in their system, so I'm sure it'll be available to you when we fully launch.
Okay, nice. All right, and then Don has a question. Are all of these products shipping and available now? I can answer that, Don, because I'm sitting in a sea of Klipsch boxes in the back of the office where my training room used to be. So yes, we have a lot of Klipsch product in stock at all the Allnet branches right now.
Yeah, I think the only one that we're a little constrained on right now is the 10-inch in half burial subwoofer, but that'll be solved very, very quickly.
Okay. All right. And so Bill's asking for some clarification on the Skyhook mounting system versus the other mounting system versus a traditional dog leg.
Okay, so traditional dog leg, generally you've got the dog legs, and when you start to screw it in, whether it's handheld or with a low torque driver, the dog will automatically turn itself while the screw is going, and it'll stop, and then it'll come down and tighten against the substrate. In the secure fit, when you put the first piece in, the I guess the frame, we can call it, when you place the frame into the hole you've cut, there's little red tabs, if you will, that have got arrows on them. When you push those red tabs, those are actually the dogs. They will flip. You know, you push them, and there's a spring in there, and it'll tension it right away to the substrate with the screw that then will extend out from there. Then and then you place the speaker on top of those screws where the holes are, and then you use a screwdriver or a low torque driver, and you just screw them in, and it basically brings the speaker and connects it to the baffle, or to the frame, if you will. So that's not a toolless system. It's a two-part system, but again, that's to isolate the sound better. In terms of Skyhook, all you need to do with that is there's little triggers, if you will. Let me see if I can back up here real quick to that. But the little triggers themselves will actually initiate once pushed in. So the trigger is right here, and this isn't engaged. It's actually up top here. And once you take the speaker and you push it into place, and this gets pushed down a hair, this dog will automatically trigger and boom, lock right in, and you're essentially done. So that's all there is to it. It's a very toolless, easy install for a speaker. Hopefully that answers the question.
Am I on mute? I was on mute, sorry. One more question, go back to the landscape satellites. You showed a surface mount option, and the question that popped up is, that looks like that might be a really good solution for like bars, restaurants, patios, things like that, where a traditional surface mount is maybe too large. How would we get low end in those applications? Would we be stuck with that rack as the subwoofer, or is there another subwoofer that we could use?
So you're going to get some decent low end out of these. I mean, it's a 5 and a 6.5. If you really want to get low with it, we do have on the commercial side a surface mount subwoofer that's available. There is also a pendant or an in-ceiling subwoofer that's available on the commercial line as well. That would provide that type of solution if needs be.
Okay. Because I think they look good. Like, I think they're elegant. I think I like that idea of maybe repurposing those instead of in landscape. I think they're just cool looking.
Yeah, and it's versatile. So if you really, if somebody wanted to have it but not have it visible, they could put it real high up and then angle it down, so that you're still getting the sound out of it without the visibility on it.
Well, and I think that was the other thing that really struck me, is that because the form factor is small and we've got really good directivity and a wide dispersion, we can really get good coverage out of these.
Exactly.
And they're 70 volts, so you could stack a bunch of them on an amp channel and really, get really good coverage in a place without it looking like there's a million. Because I mean, something like an AW650, that's a very traditional product, but you throw 24 of those on a patio, and that's all anyone's going to see.
Right.
Something like this, they're a little bit smaller.
Even so, the CP6,
yeah,
that's a very small unit in and of itself, but that'll hide into a corner.
Okay, cool.
Because of how you can angle it, it'll just slide itself right in there, and you basically won't even know it's there unless you're looking for it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not visible, but it's used in a variety of those types of applications as well. But one other thing I would recommend is, as integrators and as you're getting these projects done, Klipsch does offer a free design service as well. I know Snap does, and everybody works well with each other. But we want you to encourage, our landscape design system is a pretty straightforward application. You send your information into ProSystemDesign@klipsch.com, and I'm talking about, if you have layout plans, distances, budgets, whatever, and guys that have actually developed and built speakers do this. So they know exactly what, it's not somebody that we just grabbed off the street and said, okay, play with Vizio and learn how to do this. They go in and they know exactly what they're looking for on this, and they build systems that showcase the different coverages. You know, here's where we're looking at the different zones, here's where the subs are, and you got, and integrators, you can use this design as your own if you want. You can say, well, I cared about your project so much that I took the time to design this, when really we did it. We don't care. Go for it. Take credit for it. Or you can say, you know what, the Klipsch really treasures, your business, Mr. and Mrs. Client, or, here's a design that they did specifically for your building. And to be able to showcase that to them, I think that's a great sales tool for it. So again, it's just ProSystemDesign@klipsch.com.
Okay, that's great. All right. Next question that popped up. I don't know that we covered the warranty. What is the difference in warranty between the traditional line, the Reference, and Reference Premier?
Well, generally, you're going to get, for the most part, lifetime warranty on on our products. Some of the products, like the electronic side, are going to have the standard 1 year. I mean, it just kind of depends on what the product is. But generally speaking, you're going to get that, the lifetime manufacturer type. We'll take care of you. I mean, I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying if you stick a pencil through the driver, we're going to take care of you, but.
So the lifetime does extend. It's not just for the Reference or Reference Premier. It extends down to the traditional line as well.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, again, it depends on
Nice.
which level you're going to. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let me see what else. This might be an offline question because this is a recorded webinar. It's going to be on the YouTube channel. But is there a demo program available for dealers through the distribution program?
We are working on developing one right now with Snap on how we can do that. There is an accommodation that is very, very, very good, so you can almost use that. There is also a demo kit that is available for you for landscape systems. So there's it's called the 5812 landscape demo kit, which would include the Pro 500T, 8 of those, along with a 10-inch sub and an amp that's pre-set up for it, a wire harness, so all you have to do is plug in and play, and that is a demo kit that is available to you. And there's a 650 one too as well.
Okay, and the next question that came up, it's in reference to the subwoofers. So we kind of bounced around a little bit. We covered some of the subwoofers early, and then we mentioned the other one at the end. Can we pop back through the available subwoofers that are available through to our dealers?
Yeah, I mean, there's
for theater and like home audio.
Well, there's going to be, I mean, you're going to have the RS8SW. I don't have that in the program, but that's an 8-inch front firing cerammetallic that's available for you. Let me pull up this. Hold on one second. Let me find the. If I'm not mistaken, you'll have access to the RS8 SW, which is an 8-inch. Subwoofers. You'll have access to the in-wall subwoofers, the Pro 1000, the Pro 1200. There is also, which we talked about. Looking through the rest of it here real quick. The R8SW, so a black vinyl 8-inch sub. You will have the access to the SPL 100SW, the 1200SW, the C series. So those are the SPLs are going to be your retail type SKUs that you'll get, the lower priced 10 and 12-inch ones. The 15SW, I believe, as well, the 15-inch. From what I see on my notes here. those are all going to be available. I don't have slides on them, but you can pull this up on klipsch.com if you want. And yeah, otherwise you've got quite a versatile. I mean, the custom-based ones, the ones that I talked about, those are going to be the protected ones that you're not going to get shopped on, aren't going to affect you. And if we ever run, if there's promos or anything like that that run at like Best Buy or anything or any online, you're going to have to match those. So that's why the ones that I touched on, those are protected. Those aren't going to be sold in those locations. Very CI friendly, if you will.
Okay, perfect. All right. Oh, Bill has a follow-up question about Skyhook. Since Skyhook requires no tools, once the speaker is mounted, how would it be removed for service?
Well, you will never have to service it. It's a Klipsch speaker. No, I'm just kidding. If that does happen, there are still going to be the holes for it where you can stick a Phillips head screwdriver right into it and do a quarter turn to the left, and push up and quarter turn to the left, and it will unlock the dog. And just like a standard dog would. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Oh, are the magnetic grills for the in-ceiling speakers, are any of them corrosion resistant? I think this is going back to that walk-in shower question.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, are they corrosion resistant? I don't know off the top of my head what type of paint is used on those. It's not like a Rust-Oleum or anything like that, but they are paintable. So if you wanted to use something like that on there and then blow out the perforations on it, I don't see why it wouldn't work in that fashion.
Okay. Well, we've got, in other products that we sell, there are dedicated SKUs, and I think on those dedicated SKUs, in addition to having like weather resistant driver materials, they also use a different grade of perfed metal, so it's like a magnetic stainless, like one of the lower grade stainless. So that's how, because if you just grab a contractor grade speaker and throw it in a steam shower, the whole thing turns orange after a few years because you start to get some corrosion on the metal itself, and it just kind of bleeds through the paint.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, and I'm not saying that on the Klipsch stuff. I mean, obviously you guys are building better
Well,
products.
and that's
than what
why
I'm
I
talking
said that
about.
we don't have any marine grade type of
Yeah.
speakers that are, any marine grade type of speakers that are available right now. Doesn't mean that we won't. But like the landscape, those are IP45. We make sure that it's a UV code, it's corrosion resistant, all that kind of stuff on those outdoor type of speakers. But anything being used inside in like a steam shower or a spa or something like that, that's where it kind of gets, that's where I say, well, you certainly could. I don't think it'll do any damage necessarily, but you run that risk. And that's not something, it's not rated for that type of application necessarily.
Okay, fair enough. All right. I think we've come to the end of the questions that have been posed so far. If anyone has any quick questions, please feel free to type them into the questions tab. We've got a few minutes left. We did run a little bit long today, but if anybody has any quick questions, we can get to them before we sign off. All right. I think that's it. I think we had a great presentation today. So Tyler, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. Again, these are all recorded, so they're going to be on the YouTube channel. This should be up in, give it 7 to 10 days before we get it compiled and uploaded. And if you have not already, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel so you get notifications when these things get loaded. So thank you everyone for your time. We're going to go ahead and end the session now.
Thanks everybody. I appreciate the time.